Hey everybody! Let's see, today is, I'm losing track of the days again. It's Tuesday. I feel a little bit better today. A little less sick. Still have a cough. Still have a little bit of a cold, but definitely feeling better than I was yesterday. And I did cough myself to sleep last night. But I got up this morning. I had a little bit more energy. I took a shower, as you can probably tell. Well, you could tell before my cat rudely popped into the screen. Here's Oliver. Hi. Never far from me. Scoot, buddy. Anyways, I wanted to hop on today and talk about thyroid health. But first, I'm going to make myself a cup of green tea because I'm still sick and I don't feel great. I have two different teas here. I think I'll use my jasmine green. This is Peak, by the way. It's a company that has all organic green teas. They have black tea. They have adaptogenic coffee alternatives, which I use every morning. And they're a really great company. So if you're looking for a good organic tea, check them out. That's a cat hair. So thyroid health is something that affects a lot of people, but also a lot of pets. And one thing that I've learned through functional medicine and kind of more holistic health is that unfortunately a lot of conventional providers, both human and veterinarian, they aren't always equipped with the best tools to determine if thyroid is a problem. And why do I say that? So if, let's say, there's another cat here. I live with 6 animals, so it's normal to find hair in all of my food and drink. So let's say you are noticing symptoms of thyroid disease. It could be a lot of symptoms, right? You could have hair loss, or you could have hair that's starting to get really brittle and dry. You could even have discoloration of your hair. Maybe you're always cold. Maybe you keep gaining weight and can't figure out why. There's no good reason for it, right? And when I say you, I mean you could be you as a human, could be your dog, could be your cat, okay? And you go to the vet or you go to your human healthcare provider and you say, hey, I have these symptoms. I don't know. I think we should check my thyroid. And what do they run for you? They're going to run a TSH, which stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And they're going to run maybe a free T4. Now, some laboratories won't even run a T4 unless your TSH is abnormal. So what is the difference between, these two different labs? What do they actually stand for? Oh, hi, Adam. Adam, just so you know, and hi, Nova. My Facebook got deleted. It got suspended, probably because I keep talking about health and the internet doesn't like that. So tell Lesh I made a new one and I'm going to friend request you guys. Anyways, thyroid. So your endocrine system is complex. I don't want to say complicated, but it's complex. And so your pituitary, which is like this little kind of dangly organ that's inside your brain. Okay, it's part of the brain. And your pituitary gland and your thyroid, they work together very closely. It's a big circle. So your thyroid stimulating hormone is a hormone. It's made in the pituitary. Okay, so it's released by the pituitary because some signal in your body says, hey, I need more thyroid hormone, right? I don't have enough, or maybe I have some, but I can't use it for some reason. And so your pituitary sends out the thyroid stimulating hormone, and it goes to the thyroid and it kind of pokes it. It's like it's knocking on the door and it says, hey, thyroid, we need you to make some thyroid hormone, right? So it's stimulating your thyroid to make thyroid hormone. So that's T4. That's one of your thyroid hormones. The problem is T4 is not your most bioavailable form of thyroid hormone. T3 is. Have you ever heard of your human healthcare practitioner or your veterinarian checking a T3? Most don't. So what ends up happening is the thyroid's going to maybe crank out some T4. And that's great. But is your T4 being converted into T3 so that you can use it? You don't know unless you check a T3 level. And you can have thyroid disease even if your thyroid stimulating hormone is normal. So this is called sick euthyroid syndrome or subclinical hypothyroidism. And a ton of people and pets, especially women for humans, and dogs suffer from this more frequently than cats. Very rare for cats to have hypothyroidism. But a lot of us have subclinical hypothyroidism or sick euthyroid syndrome. And that's not great because there's steps that we can take for that. But we can't take them unless we know about it. So if ever you are looking to have your thyroid checked or your pet's thyroid checked, you want to ask about T3 levels so that you can see how well your T4 is being converted into T3 because that's the usable form. In people, you want about 35% conversion. Okay, so if you see 0.35 or more, that's a good number to have. In pets, it's a little bit more nuanced. And unfortunately for pets, we just don't have the studies like we do for people. So it's hard, excuse me, it's hard to say, you know, one thing I like to tell people, clients, patients, a number is just a number. If you feel like crap, but your numbers are all normal, I'm not going to just send you out the door and say, well, everything looks good. I guess I can't help. You are feeling what you're feeling, and that needs to be taken seriously. And it's the same thing for our pets. So definitely if you have a pet or if you yourself are experiencing thyroid symptoms of hypothyroidism, that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And there are more, and you can look it up online. You'll get a big, long list of things, right? Like constipation, things like that can all be signs of hypothyroidism. Make sure they test at minimum a TSH and a T4. Don't let them do the reflex T4, which means that they only check the T4 if the TSH is normal. Always request. And if you can get them to check a T3 level, a free T3, that's going to do you a big service. So one thing I recommend if you are looking into thyroid disease. So then the next question is, let's say you have the symptoms and your labs are normal. Or let's say your labs are a little bit abnormal. What can you do about that? There is more than just taking levothyroxine, which is the synthetic man-made thyroid replacement drug. Okay. You can start with the diet. And I actually forgot to grab the reason why I'm even doing this video. So let's walk over and get it. So there's certain nutrients that are really important for thyroid function. And there's many, there's more than just one or two, but I'm going to go over a couple of the most important ones. So we got this guy and one more thing up here. So the first one I want to go over is selenium. This is an incredibly important nutrient. So where can you find selenium? It's probably one that most people haven't heard of, right? Like, who talks about selenium? Nobody, unless you're a nerd like me. But selenium is found in a lot of places. And selenium is something that you would be really hard-pressed to find elevated in yourself or in a pet. The only way you can really get elevated selenium is if you're over-supplementing. It's really hard to overdo it from the diet. It's a mineral. And the number one source of selenium is Brazil nuts, which is nuts. That's why I named this Nuts for Thyroid Health, guys. I know, I'm hilarious. So Brazil nuts. So I came across these for the first time ever in my life when I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, visiting Billy Hookman. Shout out to Billy from Green Juju, one of my favorite fresh pet food companies. And the town of Lancaster is this cute little town. Has these beautiful old brick buildings. Everything's all, connected. Like it's like old England, and really beautiful there. I learned that they have the longest running farmers market in America. It's inside. It was really cool. But at a small local health food store, I found these Brazil nuts. And so here's what they look like. I don't know, they're nuts. Unsalted, so they're not the most tasty. I do like salted nuts. I do like roasted nuts. That makes them a little less healthy for you. I do also like raw nuts, like almonds are pretty good raw. But if you're adding it to the diet, just 2 Brazil nuts. Look at this. 2 of these per day will provide you about 200 micrograms of selenium, which is the optimal amount for a human. So less than that for a dog, maybe 1 Brazil nut per day. And this is why I say you could see high selenium if you're over supplementing, because one would think, oh, a handful of nuts, right? I should eat a handful of nuts because that's only natural. Don't eat a handful of Brazil nuts. 1 or 2 a day is going to get you the selenium that you need. That's crazy, right? It can be kind of expensive to meet nutrient needs for certain nutrients. Zinc can be a little bit tough because if you can't have fish, right? So if you can't have oysters, you need to really get your zinc from beef, and you need to eat a bit more beef than you would oysters, almost like a 10-to-1 ratio, right? So like 1 ounce of oyster, compared to 10 ounces of beef to meet zinc needs in a 65-pound dog, for example, right? So that's quite a bit more, and beef is expensive, especially if you want a good quality grass-fed, grass-finished, no antibiotics, no hormones, pasture-raised beef, which no one can afford. But selenium is one of the ones that you really can meet without much difficulty. You just go get yourself a bag of Brazil nuts. Now, other places where you're going to find selenium: fish. It's high in fish. The fish that I like to use are small fatty fish like sardines, anchovy. I will use a little bit of salmon if I can find wild caught. I won't do it often. So salmon is a large fish, and although it has vitamin D, it has your EPA and your DHA, it can have a higher risk of contamination with heavy metals and mercury, just because it's a larger fish. And same thing for mackerel. But sardines are probably my favorite, and then followed by anchovy because they're small. Other places you'll find selenium: kidney. Kidney is a great source of selenium. And I'll use, for my 35-pound dog, about 0.75 ounces of kidney per day. And for my larger dogs, 60 to 65 pounds, about 1 ounce of kidney per day. I personally do not eat fresh kidney. I'm trying to jump on the organ train. I'm having a hard time because I can just tell it's in there, and it's kind of a strong taste for me. So I started taking desiccated organs instead, which is freeze-dried and powdered and put into a capsule. That's a great way to take it. So kidney, fish, Brazil nuts, great sources of selenium. What is another very important nutrient that you need? That would be iodine, which is probably the most important one. Iodine is absolutely necessary for thyroid health. If you are not getting your iodine, your thyroid is not going to work for you. How do we get iodine in our diet? For people, a lot of us are using iodized salt. I do not use iodized salt because, unfortunately, most salt with iodine added to it is poor quality salt. I'll use, a pink Himalayan salt or a Celtic salt, but I won't use just white iodized salt. It's processed. It's not good quality. Iodine is again found in seafood, so kelp. So this is now kelp powder. I will just show you And to be honest, I probably need to get rid of this. So I put this in, this is actually an old ice cream container. I put this in here. I've had this for a year. It's probably oxidized by now, and I actually need to trash it. But look at this scooper. Look at how tiny. Look at compared to my pinky nail. Oops. It is smaller than my pinky nail, and I have small hands. 1 scoop of this for this iodine, 1 level scoop, is 450 micrograms of iodine. For a person, you need about 200 to 300 micrograms per day. So half of a scoop, or 1 full scoop every other day, would be sufficient iodine for me. For my 65-pound dog, about a half a scoop per day. For my 35-pound dog, 1 scoop twice a week. Okay? It's not that hard to meet iodine needs with some kelp. You can also get seaweed. You can get spirulina has iodine in it. Oh, was that me? No, I guess not. There was a little thumbs up on my screen. I don't know how that happened. I'm not really a technology guru. Sorry, guys. So, yeah, so kelp is a great way to get your iodine in different seaweed products. But the thing about iodine to remember is that it's also present in other food. But the USDA database doesn't list it. So there is iodine in land animal, meat, beef, chicken, right? There is some iodine in vegetables, but we don't know. And unless you want to pay out of pocket to test iodine for all of the foods that you like to feed, you're never going to know, which is a little bit frustrating, right? So I personally would cut out your iodized salt, get rid of that. It's not good quality. Go for healthier, like a pink Himalayan salt. Make sure it's organic. Make sure, look for one that says like no metals, okay? And add some real food from the sea. Get your iodine in. A kelp powder is so easy. You could toss it in your drink. You would never know it's there. You could put it in your smoothie that after you work out, right? Or your protein shake. You would never know it's there. And it's really not that hard to get iodine into the diet either. This thing, I'm pretty sure this cost me like $13. It has lasted me a year, okay? And I have to throw half of it away because I'm not using it fast enough. There are other companies that make products that are going to have iodine in it. One of the ones that I happen to have on hand is called Phytosynergy. This is by Adored Beast Apothecary. And just so you guys know, nothing I'm talking about today is sponsored. None of these companies give me any money. I don't have affiliate links with them, all right? Phytosynergy is a good product. It's expensive, all right? I use actually not quite as much as it recommends for the size of my dogs. And I'm going to take some for myself as well. So I use a little bit less. And here's the scooper for that. It's a little bit bigger. So yeah, eat your fish, get some kelp, get some seaweed. Do you like sushi? If your sushi is wrapped in seaweed, you're getting some iodine. So iodine, selenium, those are the big ones. And they're not that difficult to get into the diet. Now you also need zinc. You also need magnesium. You don't need quite as much of those. Okay. But your selenium and your iodine, those are the heavy hitters. Now, one more thing that you want to consider before I hop off and go to the store to get myself some more cough drops is heavy metal. And heavy metal contamination or toxicity will impact your thyroid function. So especially like mercury and lead, those will impact your thyroid function. So if you are coming up with hypothyroidism on your labs, or you have persistent symptoms, but your labs are normal, right? Subclinical hypothyroidism, or also called sick euthyroid disorder. And you're doing the right things. You're supporting your diet. You're getting rid of those endocrine disruptors like fragrance, right? Things that are labeled fragrance, those wall plugins that you like, those candles from Yankee Candle Company, right? All of those things with fake fragrances, they're endocrine disruptors. They're going to impact your body's ability to convert T4 into T3 so that you have usable thyroid hormone. Get rid of that crap. You don't want it. Use essential oils. But let's say you've gotten rid of all of those things. You're supporting the diet. You're adding those nutrients in that you need, and you still have symptoms. Test for heavy metals. You can get heavy metal contamination from the water supply. You can get it, unfortunately, from the food that you're eating. It can even be in like beauty products. It's really tough to suss that stuff out, okay? One way that you can test this is an HTMA, so hair tissue mineral analysis. Parsley Pet has one of those. In my opinion, it's a pretty fair price. It's $250 for a dog, $275 for a person. If you keep an eye out later on today or maybe tomorrow, I'm going to make a post. I just did HTMA testing for all 3 of my dogs and myself. Yes, you have to cut some of your hair off for it. Yes, I almost peed my pants when my husband was cutting my hair. He did a great job, and you can't even tell. But if you're having symptoms of subclinical hypothyroidism, like I have been, it's worth doing some heavy metal testing. Make sure that there's no contamination. And then the last thing is anxiety. If you are living in a chronic state of fight or flight, you are being stimulated to release cortisol. So your adrenal glands, these little tiny pyramid-shaped organs that sit on top of your kidneys, they're in charge of releasing your steroids, okay? So cortisol. And cortisol makes your body feel on edge. It makes you are ready to go. You're being chased by a tiger, cortisol through the roof. You're going to sprint. You can lift a car. The adrenaline is part of that too, right? But all of these things that you need to survive, either fight for your life or run away. Okay, that's what cortisol does for you. And it's very important. You need that. If you have too much of it, though, it's a problem. That will also impact your body's ability to convert T4 into T3, which is your usable thyroid hormone. So if you're struggling with anxiety, finding ways to cope with that anxiety truly will help your overall health and well-being. And I say from experience because I've spent the last year in a very anxious state. I live in an area that is not my favorite. I work in a high-stress setting. I've put a lot on my plate. I have 6 pets to care for. I do have a lot going on. And, even just your normal everyday life can be a stressor if you have a lot to handle, right? It doesn't have to be that you're like actually under physical threat. Anything can be a stressor. PTSD, things like that. So finding a way to have some mindfulness and, being able to center, be it meditation, yoga, breathing exercises have been clinically proven to help with cortisol release and anxiety. Even coming up with a ritual, like reading one chapter of a book if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, just so that you can check out and then come back and maybe be a little bit less stressed. So keep tabs on your anxiety and your emotions and how you're feeling. It's real, be it a physical threat or I say imagined threat, but like a mental threat, right? Something that's stimulating you mentally to be anxious. It's all real because it's happening to you. So make sure that you are really focusing on those things and finding a way to, contain and control them, because your stress impacts everything in your body, from your gut health, which means your immune system, to your endocrine system. So very important. Make sure you're taking care of your brain too. And that is my talk today about thyroid. So make sure, if you are experiencing symptoms of thyroid disorder, talk to your human doctor, talk to your veterinary doctor, if it's your pet, and, talk to them about what labs can be done to check it out. Make sure you look to the diet, see how you can support yourself. Consider heavy metals if you're doing everything right and the symptoms still won't go away. And make sure you're taking care of your mental health. It's very important. All right, that's it, everybody. I hope you have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.